and welcome to the Adrienne Ross Show, a product of the BMG Network. So glad you're tuned in at thebmgnetwork.com, the BMG Network's YouTube channel, or a major podcast platform. It's time for another exemplary episode. So here we go. I am so excited to have a special guest with me today who really needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her an introduction nonetheless. So I'm gonna actually start with the title I know means the most to her, and that is that she is a mother of 5, and of course a grandmother as well. But in addition to that, which is most important to her, she's also the former governor of the great state of Alaska, former nominee, vice presidential nominee representing the Republican Party, and a current candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, also representing Alaska. And I'm honored to say someone also I consider a friend. Governor, thank you so much for joining me on the Adrienne Ross Show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. And I've been bugging you for how long to try to get on your show. And finally, you're letting me. And I'm so glad that we get to talk about education and some of the things that are near and dear to your heart also. You, the expert, though, I hope people know that you are a school teacher and in that profession, standing out, loving students, loving the system, but knowing that it has to kind of change.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to get to that too. I want to steward our time well because I want to honor your time. And I know you're very busy, and we will touch on education because it is close to my heart, and I know it's close to you also. But since I have you on, I really would like to kind of make this a potpourri of topics. Sure. So our conversation will be about a wide range of things. So the first thing that I want to say is, okay, you haven't held elected office since 2009. Always on the national stage, though, always promoting Alaska, always talking about the beauty and the wonders of Alaska and what Alaska can do for the nation as well. So you've always been, you're like the number one advocate for your state. But with the fact that you haven't held elected office, there's been a certain level of freedom. And so, right. And so, but now with the unexpected passing of Representative Don Young, you decided to throw your hat in the ring to run, not only to finish his term, but also for the 2-year term. Okay. What I would like you to do first, would you walk us through the process of making that decision, a decision that, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, seems like a sacrifice to me because you're already on the stage talking about Alaska on the national stage with more freedom. It seems like a sacrifice. Would you walk us through the process to when you walk through that door on April 1st and filed to say, you know what, I'm running?
Wow, that is such a good question because you prefaced it with that acknowledgement that you give up freedom in your personal life in order to offer yourself up in the name of service to everybody else. And I really, really enjoy my freedom and I really enjoy my life in Alaska. But I'm willing to take one for the team is how I've been thinking about it, Adrienne, because with the things that are going on in our country now more than ever, we all need to do our part. And I've known for years that somehow I would get back in officially into the political arena. It feels like I've never jumped out of it, though, to tell you the truth. But to actually have a vote is very valuable for such a time as this. And I've been one to preach. You've probably heard me, Adrienne, talk to people and to crowds and in rallies telling people you don't need an office and you don't need a title to get out there and just do what's right and make a difference. And I think that I've been able to prove that. But there is a time and a season for everything. And I knew at this time, though, I'm glad that you did acknowledge that because there is some sacrifice personally that has to be made. But anything that is worth doing, well, there's going to be sacrifice, right? And it's not going to be easy. God didn't tell us that the right path to be on was going to be an easy path. He'll be there with us, but
Yeah.
it's not an easy path. But yeah, things that are going on in our country right now with Democrat leadership, we're going under. And I will do whatever I can to help. And as I say, having a vote and being a reinforcement for the good guys in office already, I'm willing to do that. I'm able to do that. So after Representative Don Young died, and that was so unfortunate. He's like up here. I mean, he's been our congressman, our sole congressman for 49 years, 49 years serving the 49th state, and huge shoes to fill. Well, he was coming up for election, not until another year though, and a Republican jumped in there to challenge him, and a lot of us thought, why would he want to run, this young Republican? At least he registered as a Republican. Why would he run against Don Young? Don Young is such an advocate for Alaska, and he's kind of be like taking on your dad, is how Don Young, by the way, is a lot like my dad, and I'm at my dad's house right now. So puzzled as to why somebody would think that they're better than he and could do a better job, and they wanted him fired, essentially. Well, didn't pay a whole lot of attention to that race because Don Young has always won, not just power of incumbency, but people up here in Alaska. I mean, he's legendary. Everybody loved Don Young. But when he passed, President Trump, for one, called and said, hey, are you thinking about jumping in there? And I said, well, I am kind of thinking about it. And this all happened just, within days, having to think about it. And then President Trump called again and asked, are you thinking, even clearer about running? Because we have a lot of connections, the President Trump and I do, on a personal level, because his family gets clobbered too, and he gets clobbered, and yet he's still standing. Man, I admire him and his tenacity and his convictions. But anyway, so just with the connections that we made in that conversation, he said, hey, can you imagine if we're both in there together? And I'm like, wow, you're right. Just think what we could do, because we got nothing to lose, Adrienne. So, we have our country to lose, but personally, I just think, and he thinks too, well, what more can they do to us? What more can they say about us? What more can they make up? And I decided, if a couple of the people who have been not fair weather friends, but have been loyal to the cause, and that the cause being what I represent, just common sense constitutional conservatism, if they'll be there with me, if they'll support me, because they've been by my side for a long, long time, years and years now, especially a best friend up here in Alaska who for decades has been my right-hand man. And when she said, oh, you got to do this, and we can do this together, I knew it'd be grassroots. I knew we'd be outspent, because I hate asking people for money. I'm the worst fundraiser ever. And we knew that it would be unconventional. And Adrienne, it has been unconventional.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, you know what? I was going to mention former President Trump anyway, because you in 2016 got behind him right away. And there were many people, and I will admit myself included, who thought at one time like, right, in the beginning, but you obviously saw what many of us did not, took us a while to see. And then when you jumped in, he got right behind you. And so I'm so glad he made that phone call, because I think not only are you, Sarah for Alaska, I always say Sarah for America, of course, and I make, I got my shirt on. I'm not even here pretending that I don't think that you're the one for the people of Alaska to hire for this job. So I'm glad that you made that decision. Now, I want to talk about ranked choice voting. And some people who are listening may know exactly what that's all about. Some people are like, I've heard of it, but I don't quite get it, because it is convoluted and confusing. And there's some who may be hearing that for the first time, but it's something that everybody needs to hear about. Can you concisely tell us what ranked choice voting is? And if you don't mind sharing what impact, if any, you think that had on this last election, and even maybe what impact it may have on this next election in next month?
Yes, ranked choice voting. Glad you're asking about that, because I don't want this to happen to any other electorate in any city, in any state. Alaska is kind of this test case right now where we have elements of a perfect bad storm. We have lax voter ID laws right now. We have a lot of long election cycle where mail-in ballots can be mailed in for, gosh, it seems like months now, if not many weeks. And it's okay. So those are just a couple of the aspects that create kind of this distrust of people in the process. And we cannot afford to have people not trust free and fair elections in our communities, in our states, in our nation, or there again, we're going to go under. But we have all these weird things going on one hand, but then on the other hand, the bigger picture is ranked choice voting was put on Alaska's ballot some time ago, kind of under the guise of let's keep dark money out of Alaskan politics. Vote for this new process of electing people. You rank. It's not winner take all. It's not, you don't just check a box saying, I want that person to represent me. No, you rank the candidates, and then a process of elimination via an algorithm in a computer takes votes and distributes it to other candidates if the person that you did choose as your number one pick didn't end up on top. But ranked choice voting, it's a mess. And like Charlie Kirk said, this is what's going to elect Democrats and destroy our country before we even know it. So I am just sounding that alarm, Adrienne, it's this bad. Our first round of voting for the seat to take Don Young's remaining months in office, we had about 50 candidates in it, and ranked choice voting didn't kick in yet. It was just, well, we thought it was going to be winner take all. It was, choose who you want as your representative. Well, I won by a lot. And out, overall the 50 some candidates. And so people are like, right on, we got our first woman candidate, there she is. She's going to be representative. And I'm like, no. That was just the first step. Now comes a process of elimination. So then we voted again, Adrienne. And that's when ranked choice voting did kick in. You were to choose who you wanted as your top pick, but then out of everybody else, you ranked your second choice. You could rank your third choice. People were confused about it. I was confused about it. The ballot question that asked whether we wanted ranked choice voting, it was 26 pages long. The explanation, that right there should have told people, hey, wait, anything that you can't explain concisely, well, it's not gonna, it's no good when it comes to government. So through that, it is a process of elimination, because those who receive the fewest second and third place votes, that algorithm in the computer's Dominion system, it would kick you out, and then your votes, that person's votes, would be distributed to the other candidates, depending on how many got. It's so weird, Adrienne, that the strategy that the experts say, and experts, I guess, this was written for Lisa Murkowski. She's a rhino, to keep her in the U.S. Senate, because she can't run and win as a normal Republican up in Alaska, because people, they figured her out. So, and it was her attorney who wrote this thing. So, and it's been admitted by many people who worked on it and campaigned for this ballot prop that did pass, is to keep her in office. So it's hard to even explain it without complicating it even more, Adrienne. President Trump was up here in a rally in Alaska. It was awesome. The most electric, cool, rally. He spoke, his normal woohoo, rah, rah, rah. But he was serious about this aspect of this election cycle, explained to the audience. He said, here in Alaska now, what's going on as they're kind of testing out this ranked choice voting, and hopefully it doesn't spread across the nation. Your second, no, not even your second, your third or fourth most popular candidate can actually win this thing. And I can see people in the rally going, what's he talking about? He nailed it. That's exactly what happened. So I won the first round. The next round, I was still the top GOP vote getter. out of Republicans in there.
Yes.
Then we voted again. We had a third election for the 2-year term of Don Young. By then, it had been ratcheted down to the top 4 people, and it happened to be 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Well, Democrats, I'm not going to say they're smarter than we, but they're craftier and more sinister. So one of the Democrats jumped out at the very last minute, of course, so that nobody else could jump in there. So then we go into the then we went into the third round of voting. Well, it was 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And obviously the 2 Republicans were going to split the vote because one of the Republicans is the fella that I was telling you who had challenged Don Young. He challenged the incumbency of Don Young. So he'd already been campaigning for months and months and months. Already had all the money, already had all the signs, sign locations, already had the big wig lobbyists and all their money. And so he was pretty established as a candidate. So I knew he was going to siphon off a lot of votes. It didn't matter name recognition or my track record, 30 years of politics in Alaska. I just knew that there'd be a lot of anti-Palin votes. And I knew that was coming, and he would siphon those off. That's what happened through ranked choice voting. I didn't get enough second and third place votes. I got the most Republican votes again. I thumped the guy 3 times in a row. But he did siphon off enough votes where we split the vote. The Democrat got in there. So she's serving in office right now. And I love her. Mary Peltola, she is a sweetheart. And I'm proud that she's first Native woman, all that stuff. She checks a lot of boxes, but she's just a sweetheart anyway. And we served well together. We were pregnant at the same time in office when I was governor and she was a lawmaker. We have a sincere friendship, but we don't take this personal either. She knows, she's in it to win it. Well, I'm in it to win it. What I represent is best for the country. So we don't take it personal. Anyway, so Mary Peltola is in there now. And now we're going into our 4th round of voting. Ranked choice voting is going to be very, very significant in this 4th and final vote for who is Alaska's congressman. And the math is going to pencil out exactly as it just did with Republicans splitting the vote, unless the Republican who can't win, that guy, he's not going to win, unless he were to step aside, support our candidacy, and allow it to be head-to-head, winner take all, Republican versus Democrat, and what the 2 parties represent. If we could get back to keeping it that simple, then Alaska will be, I'd say, properly represented in Congress.
Yeah. Well, it's a confusing something, it really is. And I hope that people are really paying attention, because it's so easy for us to go, well, that's Alaska or that's Maine. But you referenced Charlie Kirk, and he brought that out before, and he said, listen, it's coming to a state near you. Because it does split the vote, and the goal really is that no true conservative will ever hold office again. So this is something we all have to be mindful of.
Exactly, Adrienne. And I was going to say that the experts, the strategists, they actually advise that your strategy is to, this so goes against our nature as athletes, Adrienne. Not to be top dog, but you want to. They want us to strategize to get second and third place votes. Not so you don't care about winning. No, you don't need the most. You need more second and third place votes. That goes against our nature, as again, not just as
competitors,
athletes, but as competitors. So there are 14 real liberal enclaves throughout America, and in those 14, ranked choice voting is now part of the system. It's not as bad as Alaska's, because like I alluded to, we have other election problems like voter rolls that haven't been cleansed, and the lax voter ID laws and all that, and the mail-in ballots that take forever. Well, Maine, San Francisco, all these liberal. Okay, if ranked choice voting was adopted there, and I don't know if they're ever going to get rid of it. I haven't heard a lot of complaints there. That should have told our Republican lawmakers in Alaska that something was, kind of shady about it, and they should have looked closer at it, because ultimately they could have changed a lot of things, maybe giving division of elections less flexibility so that people knew what they were getting into. But so out of those 14 enclaves that do have ranked choice voting, and again, Alaska's, I think our process is the worst, we don't want it to spread across the U.S.
Right. Absolutely.
So, some days I think, okay, doggone it. Of course I'm in it to win it. And I really, really want to. But if I don't, if nothing else, I'm going to expose what this system is about and what it can do. I mean, look what it just did. When you win, you beat dozens of candidates, candidly.
Yeah.
And then you end up and you're still, months later, you're still campaigning for the office because you still haven't won.
It's a scam. And like you said, 60% of Alaskans voted for what they believe was a Republican agenda, and a Republican's not in Congress right now, right? Filling that seat. So, but it is the system that you have to work within. So my question now is, okay, so and I hate to use the word strategy because it sounds that you're being disingenuous, but for lack of a better word, you have to then appeal, since you have the second round, the third round, you got the second place votes, third place votes, and then you're running against Nick Begich and Mary Peltola again, and negative Nick, just to call him out. He's feeding lies, and he's so how do you then appeal to his supporters or the Democrat Mary Peltola's supporters, because that's a part of the system? How do you represent your truth to them when you're dealing with so many lies on that side, but the system?
Yeah, and there are a lot of lies being told. Nick Begich, I've heard him in his ads, or ads that he supports. His disclaimer at the end says, "I approve this message," about how I'm not even an Alaskan. I don't really live here. That I left Alaska for specifically three places: Texas, Florida, and New York. And I'm like, what? Wow, they just make crap up, And so that's been one of his narratives, is that I'm not really Alaskan. I haven't been involved in Alaska. Where have I been? I haven't helped Republicans. And of course I say, you know what I've been doing since serving in office in Alaska? Besides working in Alaska and raising my kids here, my middle schooler still attends public school here in Alaska. I've been traveling around the country and the world promoting Alaska and how important it is that we develop our God-given natural resources, and Alaska has them. So I've been getting Republicans in office. What have you been doing, Nick Begich, is what I asked. You know what he's been doing? Supporting Democrats. He admits to funding, to contributing, and voting for Democrats to put them in office. But of course, he, as a rhino, he's from the big Democrat political dynasty family up here too, by the way, the Begiches. There's the Murkowskis on the Republican side and Begiches on the Democrat side. Well, he happens to be the only Begich running as a Republican this go around. So that's, that, and that's a whole another story. But I'm sorry. I think that was Trig calling.
Oh,
are you still there? Okay, sorry. Yeah, that was Trig trying to FaceTime me from inside Grandpa's house.
Hi, Trig.
Yeah. So anyway, where was I going? There. That's a typical interruption.
Yeah, but you're just talking about his Nick Begich's. The Murkowskis on one side, Begich on the other.
Right. So the lies that have been told, and they're easy to counter. Anybody who knows me, of course, they know I live here, and I'm a hardcore Alaskan and all that. It's just so ridiculous. But of course, Adrienne, is a typical story. You don't have to do anymore. You can have of a rhino being protected by the media as much as a Democrat is protected by media. They don't want to. Yes. They don't want to give an inch when it comes to potentially a conservative winning. But as for strategy, I'm thankful that I am so adamant about the positions that I represent that are good for Alaska and America, that my spine is going to stay stiff and I'm not going to bend. And it's not so much so come what may. No, it's more a matter of how I can explain what my positions are and let people know how important it is that we do have a common sense constitutional conservative in office. So it's not so much, strategizing, because what you do need to do is get people in the middle, not just far right voters, right?
Right.
But here's something, a great example where I haven't had to compromise anything, Adrienne, and yet I have this constituency. And I asked my campaign manager, Chris Perry, about this. She's taken a lot of heat for this. And so have I the last couple of days. It's ridiculous because I'm proud of what has happened. The log cabin Republicans, the national gay Republicans, right?
Yeah.
They endorsed me. And I didn't have to change any position, any standard, anything with it. I love this because I've been one saying, man, Republicans, Christians, conservatives, we need to get out there and we need to influence and we need to listen to other people and quit preaching, just within our own four square walls of a church or anything else and think that we're going to impact culture. No, well, anyway, so log cabin Republicans, they sent out this survey, fill out the survey so that they could, weigh the person's positions and everything else, see if they want to endorse. I didn't compromise on anything. They know where I stand on everything.
Right.
And they're like, right on. You stand by your convictions. And they're concerned about the same doggone things that
Absolutely.
we are. They don't want all that transgender taught stuff, mutilating kids and all that. But that being said, their issues are our issues. Smaller, smarter government, right? Hey, America, you got to come first. Quit intervening if there's no way that we're going to win and our interests aren't anywhere overseas that we happen to be spending billions and billions and billions of dollars. Hey, we're $23 trillion plus in debt.
Yeah.
All these issues, Adrienne, that's top of their list too.
Absolutely.
So receiving their endorsement, and I'm like, thank you so much. You know what it shows? They're tolerant. You know that?
Exactly.
Because they're tolerating. They know where I am on social issues and everything else. And I think a lot of politicos could learn from how they judge a person, a public servant, what they're expecting. And I was happy to receive that endorsement. Well, heaven. Oh my goodness.
I've read some things too about that.
Already.
Maybe, the left, they're so good at trying to put people in a box and all that. Maybe they should have done their research on your record to see that, like you said, people, you're not governing from, you're not putting people in a box and governing, as an ultra partisan or, and so I think your record indicates that because I think you ticked off people on various, who stand on various different platforms.
Yeah, good point. It was both sides.
Yeah. So, okay. So, let's talk about education. You mentioned that earlier. And those who listen to me regularly know my background is in teaching. I taught in upstate New York English, 7th grade English for 17.2 years, right? So children mean a lot to me. Kids mean a lot to me. I coached girls high school varsity basketball. I love kids. And so I saw that on your website, sarahforalaska.com. One of your key issues is education. And so why is education near and dear to you such that it's a part of your key issues? What challenges are Alaskans facing that would make you want to focus in on education, and where exactly do you stand as far as education is concerned, especially now because it's serious right now.
It is. It's more serious than ever after the school shutdowns, and we're already seeing now ramifications of kids not having a structure for 2 years in their very formative years when it comes to their education. Now, personally, it's so important to me. I'm here at my dad's house, school teacher forever and ever. I'm from a house full of school teachers. So I've, grown up in that environment of the public school system. I'm a product of public schools. My children are also a couple of them on and off had gone to the local Christian school, depending on like where I was in office. But public school, the kids have all graduated. And near and dear to my heart, because of my parents, how important it was to them. That was just ingrained in us. You know, we sat around the kitchen table talking about history and civics and natural history museum stuff that I could probably show you in my dad's house.
Yes.
Anyway, so that was just ingrained in me. Politically, though, I see how what's going on in our schools today that frightens me when it comes to the teachers' unions, that not the brothers and sisters in the union, not the good teachers that just want to do their job, but leadership. And this is typical of unions. It's the leadership that has a political agenda, too often collectively a political agenda in the head shed, and then the mandates that they force down, in our case, a teacher's throat, making it the teachers waste too much time, spend time on things that are not relevant to the old reading, writing, arithmetic. And I see what's going on. I see a lot of waste of money, and I want things better for our kids, because the public school system isn't going away. And I do hear, unfortunately, too many conservatives saying, well, just get your kid out of public school, put them in public. That's not always an option. You know, up here in Alaska, we do have a good and strong public school system. Personally, my youngest, he has Down syndrome. So in a special needs program, oh my gosh, it's so good for him. It's so good. There's no option. I mean, there's not a private school that would be able to provide for Trig. And that's just one example, but it's not going away. Our tax dollars, we work really hard for our income, and then to know that it goes finally, ultimately into a school system that's wasting those dollars for fiscal reasons. I'm very concerned about what's going on. And then also the social, the cultural things that are going on in our schools that shouldn't be going on in our schools. I haven't talked to any parent, Adrienne, any parent anywhere who said, rah, rah, I'm so glad that my third grader is going to hear, about, having sex education in Johnny's classroom and or anything else that's going on along those lines. I haven't talked to anybody in the public who says, yeah. And of course I'm thinking, but that's your money that's paying for that. You better say something about it. Look what happens though, Adrienne, now, if you do say something about it. Parents get up in a school board meeting.
Oh my goodness,
look at what has happened, especially down in the states, in the lower 48 states. Parents are intimidated. Parents are charged with crimes because of I'm not even going to say misunderstandings, because of agendas that ultimately are out there to make parents sit down and shut up and not have a say in their child's upbringing. That's got to stop.
Yeah. And so you are, obviously you are, you support public education, but you also are for school choice.
Huge. Yes.
What does that look like? What does that?
Well, competition makes everybody work harder, produce more and better, and be more efficient. That applies to education also. Your tax dollars should not only go to this mandated public school curriculum if that's not the best fit for your child. Your child, via using some of those tax dollars that you've paid in, should be able to use those tax dollars to go somewhere that makes sense for that child and for that family. So that's one way that we can make some changes, is if legislation would allow such a thing. So school choice, and then be not just individual proponents of private schools and charter schools and all that's going on, but we have to politically make sure that people are elected who get it and can make those changes. But school choice, competition will make the public school system even work better. And
I worked with teachers all those years. Most teachers have a a huge heart for kids, are doing a good job. You find some who just don't even like kids, but that's rare. You know, but the culture has changed, and obviously it manifests in the school, whether it's dudes in the girls' locker rooms, or critical race theory, or transgender stuff, and you know, whatever. It's so important that parents, maybe they want to keep their kids in public school. They love the public school. They don't have any other choice. Maybe, you know, they have to hold people accountable. You know, you have to know what's going on, and you have to be able to hold the system accountable, because that's your child. And I think too many parents feel, well, that the teacher or the administrator, they have the degree, you know, and so I don't, you know, they shrink back. And it's so important, wherever your child is being educated, that you remain in the picture and hold people accountable. You know?
Well, that's true. And that is the reason that obstructionists don't want parents involved. They don't want to be held accountable. And that is why they are intimidated when they want to show up at a school board meeting and voice concerns and ask questions.
Yeah.
Shoot, some are deemed terrorists, domestic terrorists, because they're asking questions about their child's day in the classroom.
Exactly.
It's been encouraging, though, Adrienne, to see around the country more and more parents saying, enough is enough.
Yes.
You know, you could, government, you can push me on this and this and this, but when it comes to my kid, when it comes to my cubs, no. You see Mama Grizzlies all over the country and Papa Grizzlies standing up and saying, no, you're not going to go there with my kid.
Absolutely.
So, that could be a catalyst, Adrienne, for real positive change in this country, because no, you don't poke that bear. You don't mess with kids. And parents who are as concerned as you know, our passion, Adrienne, for this, think of that spreading across the country, more and more parents feeling empowered and given that ability and opportunities to get out there and kind of manifest the passion that they have for their child, for education, and channeling it in the right directions to make changes. That's how the difference will be made. And parents cannot be intimidated, not by local politicians because they happen to have a name tag, you know, and they happen to be elected to this or that or whatever. No, those elected officials, they work for for the parents.
Absolutely.
Right.
Excellent. Yes. And next week, I'm going to have an opportunity to talk to some homeschooling moms. One who's doing it a long time too. This is the first year they've done it, and I'm interested to get their take on the whole thing also. All right. So it's the first week in DC for Representative Sarah Palin. What's the first thing on your agenda?
Is to make sure that the other congressmen understand how important it is that we really ramp up domestic energy production. We are up here in Alaska, okay? We're the Fort Knox of America. We have the minerals, we have the oil and the gas, we have the rare earths, we have all these natural sources of energy that we should be turning on a spigot and utilizing them and exploiting them for good, for responsible use of mankind. Instead, there's this fake energy crisis going on, Adrienne. The reason we have an energy crisis, Biden made it. And here he's overseas, you know, hat in hand, asking for dirty, dangerous sources of oil from enemies even to be produced for us. This is crazy what's going on. Well, we can develop safely, ethically, better than any other country in the world, our domestic supplies of energy. So my first agenda item will be making sure that we open up ANWR and that we understand that, like the petroleum reserve that we have, no, that's only tapped for real emergencies, not like Biden wants to just to lower the price a couple pennies on a gallon of gas just to look good for a day or two. There's just so many aspects of the mining and the drilling and the fracking that need to be addressed. Congress, they have the say in whether we're going to continue down the road we are. What the road that we're on is to get America off traditional sources, conventional sources of energy that we have and that we know how to produce. And to go into this utopian, fake, weird new Green Deal of these alternative sources of energy, those are just boondoggles. That's just a bunch of crony capitalism for people to get rich off some harebrained ideas, because we're not anywhere close to getting rid of conventional sources of energy and all of a sudden getting to rely on these alternative energy sources that people who don't know anything about energy are pushing all the time. So much has to be done when it comes to drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, drill, baby, drill. Why am I not surprised that energy is number one on your list? I'm being mindful of time here. I want to ask you though, I want to sort of transition really quickly to something that requires really a personal reflection. And that is, you've been through a lot. The attacks, people say, oh, only other person who can understand the attacks against you, attacks against your character, your record, your family, would be a Donald Trump. I'm not even sure that he's got it like you had it, but it's close. But you've been through a whole lot. And so with all transparency, I have to ask you, how has the battle, I mean, you're a fighter and you keep coming back and they can't keep you down, but it's got the slings, the arrows, it's got to hurt. So how has all of that changed, if at all, Sarah Palin?
I think it's made my skin even thicker. I do not worry so much at all about what people say. Oh man, people are just the obstructionists, the opposition. They just don't make any sense to me. And I always keep that in mind. It's like, oh, poor person who's slamming me for this or that. That they're really missing out on what truth is, and they would be much smarter and probably more productive if they would get a little truth in their life. And then not only would the world be better off, but they'd be better off as individuals. I live by that adage that if you don't live by man's praise, you will not die by man's criticism. I want to be a good example for my kids. I have to be, because my kids take the brunt of my politics. And too often, thankfully, my kids, they're good. They're just inherently common sense conservatives. I'm so thankful for that. And they all love Jesus. And oh my gosh, I mean, I can't ask for anything else. And they're healthy. And it's all good. Yes. From the beginning though, in all this, I wanted to show them, I didn't want to, it's like that old commercial, don't ever let them see you sweat. Yeah. I didn't want my kids to see, because I knew that they'd go through a lot. They had to have somebody to look to as, how does she handle it? So my daughter Bristol, oh my gosh, she's been through the ringer too. She is the smartest, strongest, most empowered and empowering young woman that I know. She is amazing. Yeah. And I actually watch her and how she reacts to a lot of things. Yeah. And I'm very proud of the way that she can react to things. And, I learned from her even. But yeah, I mean, you're asking transparently and how do I really feel about it? A lot. Yeah. There are some gut punches here and there, because as a conservative, we cannot get our word out via conventional, traditional ways, right? Through the lamestream media. They're not going to give us a shot. They're not going to allow that fairness of having our voice heard and truth to be told and holding people accountable. So it gets kind of frustrating in, well, how do you counter a lie? How do you prove a negative? When, basically in my case, I'm up here in Wasilla, Alaska at my dad's house, and I got some friends helping me out. And I'm thankful for like social media, because I think I have a freer voice, being able to at least, post some things to get some truth out there that I wouldn't have that form or format previously for social media. So, it's I can see how other people would probably say, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. It's just too much, lots of negativity, lots of punches left and right. But God wires us all differently. And I've known since I was a little kid that somehow, some way, I would be involved in civics, is how I always thought it as a kid. I was always in student council or some kind of school leadership thing, always interested. I came into my own politically when Reagan was in office, when he was our president. So and I loved him. So I got to watch, kind of how he did things also. So just through my environment, my parents, they're not political. They've always been just normal conservatives, but just normal people. So, I've had a lot of balance when it comes to politics. And what that has allowed is for me to know what's right and what is best for the people. And I'm not as an individual smarter or better than anybody, but I do know that the positions that I hold, they're practical, they're common sense. Yeah. They will help the state. They will help individuals. They will help our country. So being really strong and sure on that, I have to kind of ignore the pot shots. Mm-hmm. And with that thick skin and the way God wired me, it allows me to keep standing. Yeah. Same with Trump. He amazes me, Adrienne, when look at what he goes through, left and right. Oh, and every time he puts his head up, somebody's punching it back down, and yet he's still standing. Well, he's a good role model then in how you keep standing. Well, and Adrienne, by the way, that is why I supported him early on. I recognized he was the only one who would have the guts to take on the media. He wouldn't placate. He wouldn't have to try to win them over. I did see, though, once in a while, it seemed like he would try to win somebody or a constituent over. It always bit him in the butt. Some of them you're just not. But recognizing he had the guts to take on media and Hillary, nobody else would be able to do that. I liked the other candidates, but I knew it was going to take somebody different, and it did take somebody different.
And that New York fighter, as a New Yorker myself.
Yes, that's you guys. That's you.
That counter puncher that he is. And it's so funny because we try so hard sometimes, the Republicans, to make other people like us. And I had a pastor who used to say to us, you're not sharing, if you're not sharing about Christ, you're not sharing that because you're worried about whether people like you. They don't like you anyway. So you might as well just be bold, right? They're talking about you anyway.
I say that about my politics and running for office. I kind of the same thing. I say, if I go down, well, I'm going down swinging. If they don't like me, they're not going to like me. If I change my position for them, they're not going to like me anyway.
It doesn't make a difference. But I will tell you this. That's why I asked how it's changed you. Because one of my prayers for you, and one of my prayers for you is that you would not become bitter because of all the attacks. And I prayed that God would guard your heart, and that you and God would co-labor in guarding your heart and not allowing all of that to make you bitter, because it can, it can absolutely.
That's good. And I appreciate that prayer. I'll reference Bristol again. She has told me that it would be so easy for her to become very bitter and guarded and not trust people. She says that she has to, I hope she doesn't mind that I would share this. I don't think she would mind because it's a part of a testimony, but she says she has to pray for herself to have that softening of the heart, to have that empathy and compassion in general, instead of being so hardened by what goes on and what is said around her. Mm-hmm. There again, I've learned from her on that. But I really appreciate you, Adrienne, recognizing that the potential would be there, of course, to not have and to not be able to carry God's compassion and everything else that we ask for as Christians. So I appreciate that. Because so far I'm not bitter.
Well, that's good. You do know that there are people who supported you from the beginning because they could connect to you because of your faith, which is also the reason why some people hate you. And I use that, and I'm not just throwing that out. I mean, they do, because they do. Many of them are demonic, but there are many of us who connected with you first because of your faith. So what role, and I know you know that. So, I mean, do you feel the responsibility of that with people that that they look at you as that example and that model of faith? And do you feel a certain responsibility, or it's just not?
Well, my foundation of faith has been with me for so long that I hope, come to think of it, I don't just take it for granted that it is me. It is my foundation, and I haven't really considered too much about what other people have thought of it, but my faith. But I do know that I don't want to disappoint people. So when Christians, especially, I want them to have people that they can look to and be encouraged with and encouraged by. And some of the things that have happened that have been out of my control, I go through an issue hoping that, knowing that my faith is going to carry me through, but more concerned about other people, how they're observing what it is I'm going through. I don't want them to be disappointed. I don't want them to think, wow, if that could happen to her and she's supposed to be a Christian, what good is Christianity then? Oh, is she protected? No, look at, she's getting clobbered there or whatever. I want opportunity to encourage people and to tell them the circumstances. Yeah, some of the circumstances absolutely suck, but we have a choice in how we're going to react to those circumstances. And as a believer, I know that I can give it to God. My mom used to always say, especially late at night, sometimes I would call her and I would say, oh my goodness, Mom, such and such issue or some, something that was concerning. And she'd always say at the end of the conversation, now, Sarah, you go to sleep because God's awake.
I love it. Yeah.
So yeah, just knowing that, and that's what it's all about. I mean, God knows that we are fallible and we're weak and we're a bunch of wimps so many times. He's fine with that because he goes, well, yeah, that's why I'm here. Give it to me. Let me carry it for you.
Yes.
I have to remind myself to do that a lot, but
yeah.
I'm so thankful for my faith, Adrienne, and for the prayer shield that does surround me. I don't know how people do this without Christ. I don't know why they would want to do this without that foundation of faith. And I want people to know about it. I want people to know that that's the answer to their individual issues and to our nation's challenges.
Yeah.
For me, it's ultimately all about God.
Yeah, I feel that. And I want to say this, and then I want to ask you one more thing, and then I'm going to give you the last word because I know I've held you too long already, but I appreciate your time. I want to say that I knew and I know that God has called you, to this arena you're in. Like you said, when you were younger, you knew. You might not have been able to put your finger on exactly what it was, but there is a call. And I say this boldly. I don't make any pretense about anything, that there's a call upon your life. There's an anointing upon your life. I saw it from the very beginning. And I know I've heard many other people say the same thing. And so I am so appreciative that I feel like God has allowed you in this arena, because it's a benefit to Alaska. It's a benefit to the nation. It's a benefit to the world, because he set you apart, as you said, for such a time as this. How it all unfolds, I don't know, but I know that what you're doing is, you don't have to be behind a pulpit to be in ministry. What you're doing and standing for truth as you do, and being a fighter, everybody, it has to be God, because I don't know how, but there's a call, and I want you to have the assurance of that God has equipped you, he has called you, he has anointed you, and his will is going to be done. And all that other slings and arrows and stuff, they can forget it. They will not prevail. So,
that's so good. That's so encouraging. Yeah. And everybody can take that, Adrienne. Everybody in their own circumstances can apply that truth that you're preaching right there. And
take it to the swamp. Take it to the swamp.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give you the last word. I want you to look in the camera, and I want you to address the voters of Alaska. And what would Sarah Palin say to Alaskans? You have the floor. What do you guys?
I want to work for Alaska. I want to work for Alaskans. I'm willing and I'm able to, the connections that I have already with those in Congress, with the quote unquote, maybe self-proclaimed movers and shakers in this country, all of that can be put to good use for Alaska. It's not seeking celebrity. It's not, as I've been accused of, it's not doing anything for self. If I were trying to do something for self, I wouldn't be in this arena because, it's not easy and it's not always fun. But I do have it within me, and I am literally offering myself up in the name of service with a servant's heart.
Yes.
I love Alaska. I know that this is bigger than Alaska though also. And Adrienne, that's something that sometimes is a struggle up here because Alaskans, we're so proud of our state, but also a lot of people are very territorial and, it's frowned upon that you would travel down in the States even to promote Alaska. You got to be one of us up here the whole time. Well, this is bigger than just Alaska. Alaska, we are going to help secure and keep sovereign our country with what it is that God has given Alaska to be able to provide the rest of the Union. We have to have the right leaders, the right fighters in office at this time to make sure that Alaska's interests are met, because ultimately then what's good for Alaska is good for the country.
Yes. And I don't believe there's anyone who could doubt your love and your advocacy for the state of Alaska, so man, Alaskans, do the right thing. Okay. And we need to send Sarah Palin to Congress for sure. How can people find you and keep up with what you're doing?
Our website is sarahforalaska.com. Nothing's capitalized, and it's Sarah for Alaska. 4 is spelled out. Go there. You can find out a lot of personal things about me and what's going on my Instagram, Sarah Palin 97. But for the politics of everything and how people can practically help, go to that website, sarahforalaska.com. My positions are spelled out there, Adrienne, black and white. There I am. I got nothing to hide. Here is what I feel about all these important issues. Anybody can ask me anything, and I'll be straight with them. Because there again, I've got nothing to. They know my positions. They know that. That's why a little bit of frustration too, Adrienne, is as we go through some grueling events or some days of going from here to there, and people ask you the question, they already know what the answer is. They already know, I'm pro Second Amendment. I'm 100% pro-life. I'm smarter, but you still go through the exercise. Whereas I'm like, I just want to get to work for Alaska. Let's hurry up. Let's get
and we want you to get to work too. We do. And so thank you so much for your time and for sharing your positions in your heart. And looking forward to you continuing the fight.
Thank you. And Adrienne, I hope your advertising, especially your Instagram. Your Instagram is awesome. And it's encouraging, and it's so doggone educational. I'll scroll through what it is that you're posting. Inevitably, I click back on it to try to get it all in, because you've got a lot of information. You've got a lot of energy too, but a lot of information that's good for, it's applicable to so many things and so many people out there who are needing some answers.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. God is good. And I appreciate you being here and on the Adrienne Ross Show. And I will catch you hopefully maybe another time, but wishing you well.
Right on.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. Thanks.
I appreciate you. All right. God bless you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sarah Palin, everybody. I am so honored to have had the opportunity to have her on the Adrienne Ross Show. She is, as I've always said, the real deal. I so enjoyed what she had to share with us, and I'm sure you did also. I'm all about Sarah for Alaska. I can see my shirt. Those of you who are watching and not just listening, I got the Sarah for Alaska shirt on. I believe that she's going to be good for Alaska and also good for America. I want to encourage you to go to sarahforalaska.com. Sarah for Alaska, and that's 4 written out, not the numeral. sarahforalaska.com and donate. We need to do everything we possibly can do to get her to the United States House of Representatives. So thank you for tuning in to that interview. I also want to encourage you to go to thebmgnetwork.com and check out the other podcasters. We are enlightening, engaging, informative, and also entertaining at times. And you're going to enjoy them as well. Also, go to a major podcast platform and please leave a rating and review. I love to read them on the episodes when I have them. So thank you. And I look forward to catching you the next time on the Adrienne Ross Show. God bless you abundantly. The Adrienne Ross Show was produced and edited in the BMG studio. The music was provided by Kevin MacLeod. Find more episodes of The Adrienne Ross Show at thebmgnetwork.com and major podcast platforms. Be sure to tune in regularly. You don't want to miss even one episode.